Hello, my name is Mark. This is my lovely wife, Rebecca, and we are here posting this video because we wanted to share some information about Rebecca's transportation needs. So um, the short story is that Rebecca's money from the Royal Bank was cut off, her disability money, because they decided that she's too disabled to be able to be allowed to access her own disability money, which seems ridiculous to us, but we'll explain more about that in a minute. But first I wanted to give a little bit of background about Rebecca so you know who she is and what she's facing. So Rebecca is 47 years old and she was born in Kitchener, Ontario. She grew up there. She had a full scholarship to go to the University of Waterloo as an artist, as a fine artist. Halfway through her schools, she switched and went into classical studies, studying classical history. And then after that, she became a computer programmer and she went to work in computer programming. That was her career. And she had her own software company. She was also doing a lot of studies and research and working on other things. She became a distinguished Toastmaster in a very short period, showing the kind of dedication that she had. So Rebecca was very involved with her life, very dedicated, very inspirational to many people. And then one day in about 2010, on a hot July day, she suddenly felt a weakness in her legs. And she didn't know where that came from, but it began to rapidly develop. And over a period of time, she ended up in a wheelchair. And I knew her back in the 2000s, and we had dated a little bit. And when I found out that she was not well, and based on our previous relationship, we decided to get married. And I wanted to be there with her through this whole experience that we knew that she was about to go through. Anyway, she was diagnosed with a couple of different things, including MS. And over the last number of years, she has gone through a lot of physical setbacks to the point where she is now in a wheelchair full time. She's fully paralyzed. She can't speak. She lost her ability to speak. She had the tops of her hips removed, the hip bones, the femurs removed, if you can believe that, and surgically to help her with some mobility in her legs. She spent many months in the hospital or in various hospitals for pressure sores that developed. Thankfully, those are gone now. And so she's faced a whole raft of physical problems that she has gone through over the last 10 or so years. One thing that's amazing about Rebecca is that she never once complained about anything that she faced. I never once saw her say, "Woe is me," or anything like that, no matter what she was going through. Even to the point where she can't even drink anymore. She actually hasn't had a sip of water in over 3 years at this point. So she's faced a lot, and she's a real trooper, and she's very optimistic, and we are always looking forward to better things in the future. Anyways, a few years ago, we got a van for her because she has to spend her evenings or nights in a nursing home. During the day, she is here with me in my home office, and so I work from home, and so she's able to spend the days and evenings with me. And so when she's at the nursing home, if I have to travel or something like that, because she can't move, she is basically just stuck in a very small location, surrounded by people who are mostly in their 90s, and they don't have much time left. So we try to get her out of it. And just to be clear, they do a wonderful job with her at the nursing home. They are very caring and compassionate towards her, and they do a wonderful job taking care of her. But however, there's only so much they can do, and so obviously she doesn't want to be there, and I don't want her to be there as much as possible. And so with this van, we're able to bring her home, and then in the evenings, quite often we go down, in the summer times, we go down to the beach here in Kelowna, and I sit and I strum guitar, and we watch the sunset together. And so we're just trying to squeeze the few drops of joy out of life that we're able to. And Rebecca I know she really appreciates that, and she has expressed that to me in various ways. So that's her current situation, and we have a van for her. The van actually has over 750,000 kilometers on it, over 750,000 kilometers on it. So it's quite an old van. It's a wheelchair van. and it's done a wonderful job for us. But recently the coolant system developed some problems, so it's overheating, and we have a quote from our garage here in Kelowna, and they are happy to fix that for her. And the wheel, they told us that the wheels also need to be replaced. The tires are pretty much completely bald at this point. So we have a quote from them for, I think it's about a total of $3,100, and then some tax and so forth. So we're trying to raise some money to fix that. And the reason why we need to raise the money and we can't do it ourselves is partly because my situation, normally we take care of some things, we take care of everything ourselves. But I've recently started a business, so there's some costs getting that up and running. And that's selling these prints that I produce. I do wilderness landscape photography, so we have that. And then, but the main reason is, again, ridiculously, is that the Royal Bank of Canada here in Kelowna, they decided, first of all, just to rewind this, about 10 years ago, we put some money into a savings account for Rebecca. It's called an RDSP, which stands for Registered Disability Savings Plan. So it's for people who are facing physical disabilities, and so they could save some money, and then the government tops it up, and then you get a benefit out after 10 years. So last year, 2022, was the first year we were able to get that benefit out, and so that was for about $1,800. So we got that out last February. So then this year, in February 2023, we went to the bank again, and the bank said to us, that the executive there said to us, we can't give you that money. Rebecca's too disabled to consent to having her money given to her. Now, this is in spite of the fact that Rebecca has had me helping her to manage her financial situation for 10 years or more, and they know that. They've been her bank for decades. They've been receiving fees from her for decades, and now they're telling her that she cannot have her funds. And so that sounded ridiculous. So we scheduled a number of meetings with them. We had some correspondence back and forth with them. And the upshot was that they said, you have to get a power of attorney. So the problem with that was that Rebecca can't speak anymore. And during COVID, she was locked away in the nursing home for 18 months. And it was during that period that she lost her ability to speak. And I was able to go and see her for 30 minutes a week only during that period. And it was very difficult for her, but she lost her ability to speak. So anyway, so we couldn't take her out to a lawyer or something like that to draw up those documents. So anyway, so I looked up and saw that we can actually do a power of attorney ourselves. And so a couple of months ago, I drew one up for Rebecca, and then she's still able to kind of shake her hand a bit. So I put the pen in her hand, and she made a little X, and we explained to her what this was about. And she's fully cognizant. She laughs at her mother's jokes all the time, and she knows what's going on around her, but she can't speak. And so then we had two witnesses who were medical people at the nursing home. And so they said, well, based on our understanding from her body language, and we could tell that she's in agreement with what Mark is doing, so they witnessed it. And so we had our power of attorney. So we took that back to the bank, and they said, oh no, we can't accept this. It has to be done by a lawyer. So they said, why don't you go and get this thing called comité-ship? And that's where you go and apply to the government, and you go through the Supreme Court of British Columbia, and you have to hire a lawyer, and of course a lawyer is $300 or $400 an hour, and then you go through this process by which you can, if the Supreme Court approves of it, and maybe that takes a year, who knows, they will then assign me as the person to take out to control Rebecca's finances. And so we looked into that, and it's too daunting, and frankly the amount of money that is involved is too small. We're talking $1,800 per year for a few years, and then on top of that, Rebecca she has about $1,100 in her bank account, so that's about $3,000, and then she gets from the government roughly, including GST returns and some small thing that she gets roughly $200 a month. So for us to go to hire a lawyer and spend a year to try to do something which the bank could do right away it seems ridiculous to us. And so we said to them, just to be clear, for you to understand, if you don't want to give her her money, which belongs to her and which you have been giving to her, you gave to her last year, basically the only way she will ever get that money is by passing away, because then her estate, we have her will, her estate would then get the money out of her account at that point. So you're saying, the bank, you are saying that you want Rebecca to die before you will release her money. And so that was basically where we left it. Oh, just one other thing. So we met them on April 18th, and they said to us, we cannot give you her money because she cannot speak to us that she wants her money. So then I said, well, what do I do with these checks that I had? I had 2 GST checks that were made out to her from the government. And they said, oh, we'll take those. So even though she herself didn't say, I want to deposit these checks into my bank account, they were happy to take them. So they implicitly understand what her intention is. And there's this thing in banking called KYC, which means know your customer. And so you understand who the customer is and so forth. And we even said, I gave them a letter. I said, here, contact her mother. Here's her mother's phone number. You can understand the situation. Contact her father. You can understand the situation. Contact the director of care. I gave them their number. You can understand the situation. And so they said, no, we're not going to do any of that. If she can't speak, then we will not release her funds. And so there was that. So anyways, so we can't get the money from them, and so we are trying to do this fundraiser now. We're looking to raise $3,750 just to do the basic repairs in the van, and then that allows her to get out of the nursing home. If for whatever reason the generosity of people is greater than $3,750 and we get more money in, then we'll actually use that in order to buy a more up-to-date van, a newer van, rather than one that has 750,000 kilometers on it. So we'll see how that works out, but that's our basic story. And so if you are able and willing to help us, we would be very much appreciative of that. And it's all for Rebecca. I've basically devoted much of my life at this point to being by her side and caring for her. I actually had a business where I was leading photography tours in the Canadian Rockies. And I shut that down because it required me to be on the road too much, and I didn't want her to be alone so much. So I closed that business down. I've been working from a home office now, and obviously there's some sacrifices in that, but it's worth it. Rebecca is very, very precious to me and to her family and to her loved ones, to her friends, and so we just want to do whatever we can to make her every day of her life as joyful as possible. And going to the beach and sitting and watching the sunset and seeing the lights played across the mountains here in the evenings in the summertime by the water, and listening to the guitar and so forth. We hope that's a little bit of joy that is brought into her life. She was a person who brought incredible joy to many, many people's lives. She was so outgoing and so generous with her time, and as a volunteer and doing so much for other people. Studying and traveling and helping people and giving to people, and so we just want to give a little bit back to her. So if you're able to help out, we thank you for that, and at the very minimum that we do ask that you think of her and pray for her, and who knows, we'll see what sort of treatments there are for her in the future, and we're hoping to bring her back to a much healthier state in the days to come. Thank you very much.